Nigeria fully capable of dealing with banditry and terrorism. Presidency reassures following pockets of renewed display of security breaches.
Many children in Africa that need legal aid live in remote rural communities. As a result, these children often find it impossible to physically access legal services.
The African child celebrated with call for concerted efforts at addressing rising cases of violation of rights and support for victims.
I'm just here today to inform you that I have now decided formally to resign my membership of the All Progressive Congress.
Embattled Governor Obaseki of Edo State and Deputy resign from ruling party. Plus, Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board pegs minimum national cutoff mark for universities at 160. Good evening and thanks for joining the Network News tonight. We're live in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Ian Ray John. With me tonight are Michael Alaleye in our Lagos Network Center and Chineye Nwoye in Enugu. Welcome. We're celebrating the African child today, and as Nigeria joins the international community to celebrate the Day of the African Child, President Muhammadu Buhari has pledged the commitment of government to protect children from sexual violence, domestic abuse and exploitation. A statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, says the President reiterates that his administration will continue to ensure that every Nigerian child has access to quality and affordable education by promoting free and compulsory basic education for the first 9 years of schooling. President Buhari expresses concern on the recent spate of sexual and physical violence on the girl child and directs relevant government agencies to scale up support for victims of violence and ensure that those who have infringed on their rights face the full weight of our laws. President Buhari also affirms that it is the right of every Nigerian child to be protected from sexual or physical violence and abuse and to enjoy an environment conducive for learning and development. The safety of every Nigerian child remains paramount and government will continue to do all within its means to protect children from violence and abuse. Meanwhile, the First Lady of Nigeria, Aisha Muhammadu Buhari, has identified with the Nigerian children on the occasion of commemorating this year's International Day of the African Child, urging them to enjoy the day while observing the protocol of COVID-19 of stay-at-home order and dedicate their time to reading educative and informative literature. The First Lady stated this in a message during an event to commemorate International Day of the African Child. State House correspondent Aliyu Kabir reports.
The Day of the African Child is being celebrated on June 16 every year since 1991. It is initiated by the Organization of African Unity, now African Union. It is aimed at raising awareness of the continuing need for improvement of the education of African children. This year's theme, Access to a Child-Friendly Justice System in Africa, is a renewed commitment of the African First Lady's peace mission supported by the Nigeria's First Lady towards improving the plight of the African child, particularly with the current coronavirus pandemic. This is in addition to addressing different abuse faced by the African children ranging from rape, trafficking and child labor, among others.
In accordance with this year's theme, a child-friendly system of justice acknowledges that children have their own legal rights and interests and recognize the authority of the child's representative in legal proceedings. Many children in Africa that need legal aid live in remote rural communities. As a result, these children often find it impossible to physically access legal services.
The Day of the African Child 2020 is taking a very radical approach to commemorating this event by going virtual. You could recall that every year we have over 300 children celebrating with us in this hall. But because of COVID-19, we had to do it this way.
While calling on children to speak out against any inappropriate behavior towards them, the First Lady employed relevant authorities across Africa to provide friendly services to children such as free 24 hours helplines, child-friendly complaint services, as well as Child Offenders Court and free legal advice for juveniles, among others. In Abuja, Aliu Kabir, NTA News.
And still on the African child, surmounting the many challenges confronting the girl child in recent times is the focus of this year's celebration of the Day of the African Child, as the Ministry of Women Affairs joins other countries to explore the theme, access to a child-friendly justice system in Africa. Momso Damian Dati reports.
In June 16, 1976, nearly 10,000 black students from Soweto, South Africa, marched to the streets to protest the poor quality of education, a way to demonstrate their disapproval of the Black Education Act, which segregated students based on their race. Security forces stepped in. Hundreds of innocent students were shot. Many lost their lives and thousands were injured, hence giving birth to the reason behind the commemoration of the Day of the African Child since 1991, to recognize and create awareness on children's rights to quality education. Now an annual international event that even 12-year-old Rosalyn Adiele here in Nigeria can join millions through her songs to make a case for the African child.
The children will rise and shine. Let's make our nation proud, serving our fatherland.
Can show the boldness to speak if they have been abused.
The Ministry of Women Affairs is championing this cause to tackle issues relating to children, especially on sexual assaults.
They need to come into contact with effective justice, the justice system, in order to enable them access justice for the protection of their rights against any form of discrimination, violence, abuse, and exploitation.
The Attorney General has just set up or is putting together an interministerial gender-based violence management committee.
Action is very, very material. We don't want a situation where perpetrators go scot-free because evidence is destroyed.
A letter from the children to the minister is expected to reach Mr. President for further action. Momso Damian Dati, NTA News.
Also, the Nigerian Police Force, National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, and the National Human Rights Commission are working together to ensure the full implementation of the newly developed standard operating procedure on responses against rape and violence of human rights as part of the national approach towards addressing the menace of sexual and gender-based violence in the country. Omenka Amarachuku reports.
Recent reports of violence against women and girls has reached a horrifying proportion, with some of them being killed in the process. Horror on account of this has continued to soar between the months of May and June this year in some parts of the country. To tackle this menace, the Nigerian Police Force, NAPTIP, and National Human Rights Commission staged a common front against rape, child molestation, trafficking in persons, and other sexual and gender-based violence in the country.
The Nigerian Police Force is taking full advantage of the state-of-the-art National Crime and Incident Database Center of the Nigeria Police, which is domiciled at the Force Headquarters, Abuja, with its capacity to spread in all the commands so as to collect, profile, store, and share records of sexual and gender-based violence cases.
The work of the Inspector General of Police and the DG NAPTIP, who prosecute these cases, can be made easier if the laws that border on sexual and gender-based violence and rape are revisited.
Able to get 7 convictions, and the one that made me happy the most is that in all of these 7, we were able to get only 1 life imprisonment.
The solution also seeks to resolve to liaise with other partners, strengthen their working relationship and information sharing in the fight against sexual and gender-based violence in the country. In Abuja, Omenka Amarachuku, NTA News.
Now talking politics, Governor Rotimi Akeredolu of Ondo State is seeking the blessings of President Muhammadu Buhari as the 6th renewal of his mandate for his 2nd term in office. The governor stated this while briefing newsmen after an audience with the president. State House correspondent Adamu Sambu has details.
Governor Rotimi Akeredolu was in the State House to formally inform President Muhammadu Buhari of his intention and desire to recontest in the forthcoming Ondo State governorship election.
Having obtained the expression of interest and nomination form, I decided to let the president know of the fact that I will be contesting election again, and that I pray God Almighty that I will be successful, and that I needed His blessing.
The Ondo State Governor told newsmen that his chances of flying the governing party's flag once more and indeed winning the election are very bright.
Direct, indirect, Aketi is a goal. We will win. In office for over 3 years, easily for me, I've done reasonable work in Ondo State, and it is there for everybody to see. It's not something that is hidden. We've gone on the issue of infrastructure, we've gone on our schools, we've gone on the universities, we have gone everywhere. You remember the president visiting Ondo Lean Industrial Hub. That is a monumental achievement, and he has said to me pointedly, you have done very well in Ondo State. That can go for the president supporting you.
Ondo State governorship election comes up on the 10th of October this year, while the first term tenure of office of Governor Akeredolu expires on February 23rd, 2021. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the embattled governor of Edo State, Godwin Obaseki, has formally resigned his membership of the governing All Progressives Congress. The governor made his decision known while briefing journalists in the State House.
I'm sure the whole country knows and is aware of what has gone on with me and the party chairman, the party leadership, which culminated in my disqualification as a gubernatorial aspirant. And upon that unfortunate decision by the chairman of the All Progressive Congress, I'm just here today to inform you that I have now decided formally to resign my membership of the All Progressive Congress. Having done that, I will now announce in the next few days my specific line of action and what platform I will be contesting the gubernatorial elections on.
Nigerians may like to know, why have you decided to come to the State House to make this your decision known?
I said that before I make a decision, I have to show respect to my president, who I adore, who for me is an epitome of incorruptibility, an epitome of order, an epitome of lawfulness. This is a man who, for him, that is what Nigeria should be about.
Correspondent Adamu Sambu reports that Governor Obaseki was, however, not granted audience by the president. The governor was recently disqualified from participating in the forthcoming APC governorship primary election due to what the governing party called discrepancies in his credentials. In the meantime, the Deputy Governor of Edo State, Philip Shuaibu, has also resigned from the All Progressives Congress. Ahead tonight, renewed military onslaught neutralizes bandits. Details when we return. Welcome back. The Nigerian military says the air component of Operation Hadarin Daji has destroyed some armed bandits' camps in the forest in Katsina State, south of Birni Kogo, along the Katsina-Zamfara boundary area. In a statement by Director, Defense Media Operations, Major General John Eneche, the airstrikes were executed on 15th June 2020 as part of missions under the subsidiary Operation Accord after human intelligence and a series of surveillance and reconnaissance missions confirmed camp activities of members of a notorious armed bandits gang led by one so-called Adamu Aliero. Following confirmation, the air component dispatched Nigerian Air Force attack aircraft and helicopter gunships to engage the area, leading to the destruction of 3 of the targeted camps, some of which were seen engulfed in flames. Several of the criminals were also neutralized in the process. The Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, commended the air component of Operation Hadarin Daji for their professionalism and urges them to remain resolute in the conduct of airstrikes. And still on security, the presidency has reassured Nigerians that the nation's armed forces are fully capable of dealing with the challenges of banditry and terrorism, urging more patience as the military takes appropriate steps to block gaffes being exploited to unleash mayhem on innocent citizens. This assurance is coming on the heels of recent attacks in some parts of the country. Elizabeth Omori has more.
By the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, says efforts to rid off insecurity in some northern states by President Muhammadu Buhari include the approval of a joint military and police operation specifically targeted at Kermin, Niger, Kaduna, Katsina, Zamfara, and Sokoto states to rid the areas of bandits. This is to be supported with surveillance and more night vision aircraft already deployed under Operation Accord. The operation was launched 3 weeks ago. In the President's words, Nigeria's military has displayed its capabilities in the past and will show it again by dealing with the current challenges. President Muhammadu Buhari therefore appealed to the people of Katsina State to be patient and supportive of the ongoing military operations in the state, while sympathizing with those who are bereaved, injured, and lost properties. President Buhari admonished that taking to the streets for protest could distract military operations, urging Katsina indigents not to give up on the military, who over the years have a strong track record of quelling crisis once given enough time. The presidency has also appealed to the coalition of northern groups to embrace democracy because the future, as often said, belongs to the youth. This is in response to the group's claim that they are dissociating themselves from democracy. The presidency, however, reminded them that President Buhari, as many times as he met youth leaders, always emphasized that we are fixing the ailing state to hand it over to you. It then amounts to a great mistake for the coalition of northern groups to otherwise promising northern stars to dissociate themselves from Democracy Day and in effect decognizing democracy as a chosen system of government. The president said Nigeria recognizes Democracy Day because for many decades since independence, the fight for the right for Nigerians to choose their own government in their own name was not complete. A prominent citizen of the country, Chief MKO Abiola, died trying to do just this. The statement added that for the challenges Nigeria faces today, lack of universal suffrage or lack of elected politicians is not one of them. Rather, the current severe hardship is due to the coronavirus pandemic and challenges posed by the Boko Haram terrorists. The statement further said the government has done more than any other elected or not elected to curtail and beat back the terrorists, and no government has done more to foster democracy and freedom of speech in Nigeria than the current administration. The fact that CNG is freely able to transmit its position to the media in the hope that it will be widely reported is a testament to the freedom of expression and media liberty that exists in Nigeria today. The statement concludes, hoping that the CNG will consider the facts and reconsider the unhelpful and inaccurate message the statements contain when issuing them in the future. In Abuja, Elizabeth Omori, NT News.
We head to Borno State now, where the decade-long insurgency has significantly ravaged many communities, which prompted the present administration to design sustainable post-insurgency reconstruction and resettlement program to return the state to the path of progress and development. Mohammed Goni takes a look at reconstruction and housing program of the Governor Babagana Umar Zulum-led administration in Borno State.
A recovery and peace-building assessment report jointly published by the World Bank, United Nations, Nigerian government, as well as the European Union, estimates destruction from the insurgency at the tune of $5.9 billion across 20 local government areas of Borno. A total of 956,453 private homes, which account for almost 30% of houses in the state, were destroyed by the insurgents. Bama, one of the areas occupied by the insurgents, was worst hit among the council areas devastated, as over 90% of homes were razed down. As the pioneer commissioner in the Ministry of Reconstruction, Rehabilitation and Resettlement, saddled with the responsibility of rebuilding the state in the immediate past administration, and being part of the team that compiled the Recovery and Peace Building Assessment Report, Professor Babagana Umara is in the picture of magnitude of the challenges arising from the decade-long insurgency. On assumption of office, Professor Babagana Umara initiated a series of construction and rebuilding works across the 3 senatorial districts, for which 9.2 billion naira was budgeted in the 2020 appropriation, targeting 7,400 homes in the first year of his administration.
Housing challenges have given rise to high costs and rents. The development of shanty settlements with attendant environmental hazards and the periphery of the city.
Already, 500 housing units are being constructed in Maiduguri, 300 units at Ajiri in Mapa, and 250 units at Kauri in Kandaga local government areas. 500 houses are being rebuilt in New Marche to resettle IDPs from multi-local government taking refuge in Monguno.
Reconstruction, rehabilitation and resettlement is one of the agenda of our own administration. You have seen it. We have started New Marche. God willing, we shall complete the rehabilitation of the 500 housing estates.
Governor Babagana Umara also signed a memorandum of understanding with an estate finance and development firm toward construction of 4,900 houses in Borno State, out of which 3,200 are to resettle IDPs, while 1,700 homes will cater for low-income earning civil servants. Primary and comprehensive health centers have been constructed in all the senatorial districts, in addition to rebuilding primary, secondary, and new mega schools, fully equipped and put to use, while the historic Biu Council Secretariat has come to fruition. Within 1 year, the present administration has executed massive roads and drainages projects in Maiduguri, the state capital, with similar infrastructural developments ongoing simultaneously at the local government areas. In Maiduguri, Mahmoud Goni, NTA News.
And on the pandemic, Nigeria has lost a total of 424 persons to COVID-19 as the wife of Ukraine's president hospitalized following coronavirus infection. Debola Brooks-Lane Sunday has these and more on Global Update.
Nigeria now has 10,885 active cases of coronavirus. This is after the recovery and discharge of 5,349 persons, 424 deaths, while the total number of confirmed cases stands at 16,658, as published by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC. Meanwhile, the Africa Center for Disease Control says the continent now has a total of 251,866 cases of COVID-19, with 6,769 deaths and 114,308 recoveries. And on the COVID-19 Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University dashboard at about 6:50 p.m. local time, 8,160,996 persons have been infected with coronavirus globally, 440,387 deaths, while 4,263,462 people have recovered from the virus. New Zealand's Director General of Health, Ashley Bloomfield, says 2 women who arrived in the country from Britain have tested positive for coronavirus. Ashley Bloomfield said the pair were released early from government quarantine and permitted to drive from the city of Auckland to the capital Wellington before being diagnosed or even tested, and that the women had done everything right and had not put other members of the public at risk. The pair mark New Zealand's first new cases of COVID-19 for more than 3 weeks of no case in the country. The wife of Ukraine's President Olena Zelenska has been hospitalized after contracting the novel coronavirus. The presidential office said her condition is stable. Last week, Zelenska said she had tested positive for COVID-19, while her husband, Volodymyr Zelensky, and their 2 children tested negative.
Many thanks, Adebola. Now, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, Festus Daudu, has advocated synergy between the public and private sectors in tackling the coronavirus pandemic, as government cannot fight the scourge alone. Receiving a hand washing and sanitizing equipment donated to the ministry by the International Institute of Certified Forensic Investigation Professionals, the Permanent Secretary extolled the ingenuity of Nigerian youths through local inventions to combat coronavirus.
Have been exposed to come up with their own initiatives. The fight against COVID-19 is a collective fight, and I believe that together, if we put all our efforts together, we'll be able to come out victorious.
This hand wash and sanitizing machine, use with your foot. You press the soap, you get the soap, you press the water, you wash your hand, and you sanitize your hand, and poop, you go. There is nothing like hand contact in the process. So it's safer, beautifully done by a Nigerian youth, and we found it very important and key to promote Nigerian youth.
The Institute says more of the equipment will be distributed to other federal ministries as part of its corporate social responsibility to support the fight against COVID-19. We head to Kaduna State now, where the directive by Governor Nasir El-Rufai for dismantling roadblocks across boundaries of Kaduna State is yet to take full effect 24 hours after the directive. Mijama Adamu files in this update from the state.
This is the new face of Kaduna-Abuja highway after dismantling of barricades hitherto placed at various entry points into the state to help enforce the quarantine law leveraged on by the state government to curtail the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. Governor Nasir El-Rufai directed the removal of the roadblocks sequel to persistent outcries by motorists, including those conveying food items and other essentials, who allege harassment and extortion by security operatives at such checkpoints despite the exemption from the interstate travel ban. Bala Garba, a tanker driver who is heading to Zamfara from Lagos, says the measure by the state government is timely intervention that has saved them untold inconvenience and monetary losses.
The time one with that block day, hold on too much. But now there is no any checking point. The road is clear.
The roadblock is causing more go slow, and actually we are suffering a lot.
No way to pass because they are always block the road. But I thank God for news when I hear this morning say the governor of Kaduna.
It could be recalled that Kaduna state government directed that roadblocks at the state boundaries be dismantled, but exempted those mounted within the state to enforce the 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew. In Kaduna, Mijama Adamu, NTA News.
A report just in says the Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja has affirmed the suspension of Comrade Adams Oshomole as a member and national chairman of the All Progressives Congress. Ruling on the interlocutory appeal filed by Comrade Oshomole, the appellate court upheld the decision of the Federal Capital Territory High Court delivered by Justice Dankami Senchi, which in March ordered the suspension of Oshomole as well as restraining him from parading himself as the national chairman of the party. In a unanimous judgment in the first appeal delivered by Justice Eunice Onyemanam, the court held that the FCT High Court had territorial jurisdiction to have entertained the suit as it did. The court also withdrew his rights and privileges as national chairman of the party, including his security details. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has assured members of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria that the federal government is desirous of carrying them along in this era of COVID-19 pandemic as dependable allies. The minister said this during a virtual meeting with the members. Anthony Forson reports.
The government needs the media, so the media must survive to play its role.
The virtual meeting with the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigerian members is in continuation of series of engagements by the Information and Culture Minister to work out short, medium and long-term strategies to come up with a package that will mitigate the impact of the pandemic. The minister explained that government is worse hit by the pandemic, which has had a serious impact on the economy, pushing it to dive low with oil price not favorable.
While we are thinking of the COVID-19 period, we should also be thinking about the post-COVID-19, because clearly there's going to be a new normal. Life cannot be the same way it was before. We will have to conduct businesses differently, and we must be resourceful and creative to ensure that post-COVID-19 will come back stronger.
In their separate comments, members applauded the minister for the move and expressed gratitude over the federal government's concern for their plight in this COVID-19 era. They were, however, quick to throw their weight in support of the war against fake news through the protection of content which are published on social media platforms without royalty, a move that gladdened the heart of the Information and Culture Minister, who has been calling for an outright war against fake news, knowing its dangers to society and coexistence.
So I will be more than willing to ensure that content owners derive the maximum benefit from their creativity. So please, I'll work with you. I hope it's something that can be done without, having to go to other National Assembly or elsewhere. But if it's but I think without prejudice to the method we are going to adopt, please let me have a proposal from you.
With this, the NPAN members has assured the Information and Culture Minister that a proposal to check fake news through the protection of content and right owners will be submitted within 1 week. In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the appointment of 12 new permanent secretaries in the Federal Civil Service. Head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Folashade Yemi-Osun, conveyed the president's approval in a statement signed on her behalf by the Director of Communications, Mrs. Olawumi Ogumoshule, in Abuja today. The new permanent secretaries are from Kogi, Kano, Anambra, Gombe, Kwara and Cross Rivers states. Others are from Jigawa, Yobe, Abia, Sokoto, Adamawa and Oyo states. The swearing in and deployment of the new permanent secretaries will be announced in due course. For more reports, let's now join Michael in Lagos. Hello, Michael.
The Lagos State government has suspended the planned reopening of churches and mosques on June 19 and 21 indefinitely as a result of rising cases of COVID-19 in the state. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, at a news briefing on the update of COVID-19, assured residents that government will continue to base its decision-making on data modeling to ensure the protection of lives and property. Nusa Usula reports.
The government had earlier announced that worship centers will be opened this weekend as long as they comply with the directives on social distancing and other preventive measures. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who explained that Lagos State continues to be the epicenter of the coronavirus pandemic in Nigeria, with about 44% of the total number of confirmed cases nationwide, stated that the decision is in the best interest of residents.
We've recorded a total of 7,319 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Lagos State. Of this amount, officially about 1,200 have all been fully discharged and they've all recovered and discharged. while sadly we recorded 82 deaths to date.
The governor, who expressed gratitude to those at the front lines of the response to the pandemic in the public and private sectors, urged residents to continue to obey government's COVID-19 directives as community transmission of the disease is rapidly on the increase. On the reopening of schools, Governor Sanwo-Olu said it would still remain on hold for now due to the global pandemic and pointed out that e-learning method employed to impart knowledge on students is yielding results. In Lagos, Nusa Osula, NTA News.
Fund managers have been challenged to stay innovative in their operations as the traditional method of banking gravitates towards near extinction. Abolade Salami examines the place of Infotech in the new scheme of things.
A 2018 report from the World Economic Forum on Future of Work states that by 2022, about 75 million traditional accounting jobs will be lost to technology, while about 93% chartered accountants jobs will also be taken over by technological changes caused by fourth industrial revolution. However, with the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, the world is experiencing a major shake-up in crude oil price, global trade, and price of stocks. The financial service is not also spared.
If we do not retool and re-strategize to embrace the new ways of doing things, indeed, the choice is ours to make. The advice to the chartered accountant today is to embrace technology or we die. New skill sets are now required as a result of digital disruptions.
The initiatives on technological developments being practiced by financial institutions before the outbreak of the pandemic, experts agreed will redefine the banking system.
Fintech, of course, has come to stay. You don't have to have a bank account to transact these days. You can transfer your money through different digital means, including what we now call the PSB.
It's all about bank being an IT platform more than what they used to be. So COVID-19 is here and it has changed the way we work. It has redefined our economic.
Preserving the future of the profession, experts say, is largely based on the acquisition of required skill sets and competence as a result of digital disruptions, urging on practitioners to do more on self-development. In Lagos, Abolade Salami, NTA News.
This is NTA Network News. More reports after this break. Please stay tuned.
Good to have you back. Nigeria's public finance management reform is gaining grounds with more ministries, departments and agencies of government keen into it. The latest is the Nigerian Armed Forces, as Minister of Finance Zainab Ahmed inaugurates committee for full implementation of GIF-MIS. Benny Adams reports.
Is said to be a scarce resource and the management of it is key. Owing to this fact, the federal government introduced the Integrated Financial Management Information System, GIFMIS, an IT-based system for budget management, transparency and accountability in government business. In the words of Accountant General of the Federation, Ahmed Idris, more than 800 MDS have keyed into the financial reform, including the armed forces. To ensure full implementation of GIFMIS by the Nigerian Armed Forces and other security agencies, in line with peculiarities of their operations, an inter-ministerial task force was inaugurated.
There is also the concern expressed about the alignment of the GIFMIS operations for the command and control structures of the armed forces as well as the intelligence community and other security services. Thus, the constitution of this task force is purposely to look at these concerns and also collectively find workable solutions such that we are able to move forward.
The task force has a period of 3 weeks to fulfill its task. In Abuja, Benny Adams, NTA News.
The Minister of Power, Saleh Maman, says coronavirus has affected payment capabilities of consumers and obstructed ongoing power projects across the country. He was speaking at day 2 of the public hearing convened by the Senate Committee on Power on the Power Sector Recovery Plan and the impact of coronavirus. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo reports.
A day after the Minister of Finance briefed Senate Committee on Power on federal government's financial involvement in the power sector, the Minister of Power has outlined areas affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. The minister explained that the federal government has set plans in motion to swiftly complete ongoing projects in the country, ensure central coordination, and expand solar power system.
For those that require our counterpart funding, in the face of daily national revenue, we are proactively seeking strategies that will enable us to anticipate the impact and plan for it.
Carry us along so that we can join hands together and provide for Nigeria. That is what all of us are elected to do.
At the Joint Committees on Petroleum Upstream and Downstream, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timi Priya Silva, and Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Melekiari, responded to call by the committee to permanently put an end to fuel subsidy and ensure the rehabilitation of Nigerian refineries.
The time has come to finally take the bold and giant step to exit subsidy.
These discussions and the combination of everything, the deregulation and then the PIB will improve a lot of investment in this sector.
The Group Managing Director announced plans to take away pipeline security surveillance from private contractors and return it to government. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
And on education, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, has pegged minimum national cutoff mark for admissions into universities in Nigeria at 160. Cutoff mark for polytechnics, 120, while colleges of education and innovative enterprise and institute entry mark is 100. The decision was taken at the 2020 policy meeting on admissions into tertiary institutions in Nigeria. Olainka Ojo reports.
In this hall are decision makers in the nation's tertiary institutions, and the decision taken here will determine the fate of more than 1.9 million candidates seeking admission into universities, polytechnics, colleges of education, and innovative enterprising institutes. The lead decision maker at the policy meeting is the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB.
Universities will have minimum score points of UTME as decided by each of the universities. For the polytechnics and the colleges of education, also as decided by each of the institutions, except that no institution will be allowed to admit a candidate for universities if he has scored less than 160.
While some tertiary institutions are found wanting in the admission process, another major decision reiterated by the Minister of State for Education is strict adherence to the use of Central Admissions Processing System (CAPS) during admission.
No admission offer should be made to any candidate outside the Central Admission Processing System (CAPS). These institutions during admission outside Central Admission Processing Systems are endangering our system and confusing our candidates.
With the pronouncement of the 2020 UTME cutoff marks, the date for the commencement of admission is to be announced soon. Olainka Ojo, NTA News.
Let's now join Chineye in Enugu. Chineye.
Thank you, Nyere. Good evening and welcome to Enugu. The International Day of the African Child is a day set aside to raise awareness on the challenges confronting children in Africa and for continued improvement of education of the African child. Jude Abugu in this report takes a look at the plight of the African child.
Child is said to be beautiful, endowed, resilient, and disciplined, but often overlooked, neglected, and abused. A typical African child, according to child rights advocates, is faced with bleak future due to so many societal issues and problems confronting the African child. These include rape and sexual abuse, child labor, forced marriage, denial of inheritance, poverty, and malnutrition.
The African child is faced with the issue of low access to education. The access of the African child is also reading with the factor of poverty, low accessibility to medical health facilities, and even if you could access it, your parents could either be poor or they are not ready to use the facilities because of the exorbitant prices.
African children are given their rights because all African children, their rights have been taken away from them and never remembered by their government.
With access to child-friendly justice system being the theme of this year's event, what can the society do to protect and secure the future of the African child?
As parents and guidance who are willing to look and listen to people will achieve a greater society for the African child.
In Enugu State, there are machineries and legal framework in place to safeguard the lives and future of children who are defenseless and vulnerable.
The state has 6 family courts in each of the 3 senatorial zones, 2 magistrate court and the 2 high court. The state also has in place, as provided in the Child Rights Law, State Child Rights Implementation Committee, whose job is to see that this Child Rights Law is implemented to letter.
Children, they say, are the future generation, but many are asking, how can this come true when they are emotionally traumatized and denied the basic tenets and rights on which to grow into responsible members of the society? In Enugu, Jude Abugu, NTA News.
Let's now talk sports. English Premier League sets to resume on Wednesday.